Rehabilitation medicine, it's also called physical medicine and rehabilitation, or physiatry. It's a field of medicine that focuses on function and quality of life. So, all the other fields of medicine own an organ system. You get a dermatologist, they own skin, an orthopedist, they own bones, and we own function, which is a really hard thing to get your head around, but it makes a lot of sense. Hey, the neurologist comes in and said, yep, you broke your back, you're paralyzed, and then they come back next week and say, I'm still really good at diagnosing, you're paralyzed, and you're looking up and saying, yeah, but I want to go have sex. and you need some other kind of specialty to deal with those things, right? So my specialty typically deals with people with, for instance, strokes and spinal cord injuries and brain injuries, amputations, neurologic diseases. We do a lot with kids that have disability like cerebral palsy. And we also see adults with sports injuries, back injuries, things like this. One of the things that really excited me about rehabilitation was the sense of activism. People with disabilities taking charge of their lives. There's a lot of prejudice, etc. When I started looking at international health, I saw a kind of a shocking after consequence of that wasn't so good. And that is, with the people who have disabilities in rich countries being very capable of advocating for themselves, they had booted doctors out of their lives in terms of policy. They had a right to do what they wanted to do. However, in developing countries, the people with disabilities largely were prejudiced against in such a strong way that they couldn't be very effective, and they didn't have much knowledge of the little bit of rehabilitation that medicine is. They didn't know what doctors did in rehabilitation. So you would see the Swiss or Swedish person with disability saying, get the doctors out of all the policy making, and then you'd see a person in Africa who had an amputation and nobody was taking care of them. This kind of embodied itself for 30 years in the World Health Organization with a concept called community-based rehabilitation. So when I started talking to world policymakers, they were all talking about community-based rehabilitation. And then when I traveled to Africa, I'd see these community-based rehab programs that weren't taking care of people with disability. Sometimes have a little bit of a conflict of interest, like they want the money to take care of them, but the person who's in the intensive care unit needs the money to get a fake leg, this kind of thing. And so the more and more we look, the more we realize that that program is good, but there needs to be some big, strong academic leadership. It'd be wonderful if those people that led the program were doctors and professionals who had physical disabilities, but in Africa and many other places, you can't get a person with a disability into the medical school, let alone accepted by their peers in these academic situations. So you need to have really strong academic leadership to build rehabilitation around the world.